Yes, today it happened. Zhiyun just released the new firmware for the Weebill S Firmware 2.06. Yes, it has been waited for a long time to get a new update. Last time they updated this system was back in August, I think. I was actually getting worried that they were about to discontinue the Weebill S, so I've been looking constantly on the website to see if there was some new changes. But luckily, it doesn't look like they're doing that right now because we got a new update today. So what did they do to this gimbal? There is some issues with it, of course, that we would like to change. Have they changed all these things? So let's dive into what we got in firmware 2.06. Firmware 2.06 is installed in this gimbal right here. Let me just show you. Go down, about firmware 2.06. Yes, I've been doing some tests here in the studio with the gimbal, and I will say it looks promising. They say that in the text file that we get with the firmware, they say that improved stability of the system, and that's actually the only thing that's in there. So this could be many things. Is it the software that you just updated so that the overall stability and the way that the Weebill S runs, is that what they have improved, or is it the stability of the actual gimbal? So to test this, there's some things that I always do with the new firmware. I test the stability of the gimbal. Do we get any camera shakes from the motors? I also test some of the outer positions of the gimbal. So first of all, the first thing I do is that I want to check if we get a camera shake from the tilt motor. So I auto-tune the gimbal and see what we got. So now it's auto-tuned, so we'll go into motor and then we'll see custom, and you'll see we get 16, 32 and 37 in the parameters, and that is actually the default settings for the smaller cameras. So not a difference there, but the difference is that we don't get any shake from any of the motors. On some of the firmware, we got shake from especially the tilt motor. When we put it into underslung mode, we didn't have the lens support on, this tilt motor would shake, but we don't get any shake here. Also tested that if we go into custom and we crank up the tilt motor, let's put it to 30, 32. If we do the same thing, will there be any shake? I always hold on the motor to see if there's any shake or anything. If we shake the gimbal, set it down, normally sometimes there will be shakes after that. There's nothing here, so there's a nice improvement with that and the stability of the system. So let's try to do the same with the heftier lens, the 24 to 105. Normally when we have these bigger lenses on the Weebill S, it tends to vibrate in underslung mode. So let's check what we got. We just have the motors here. What did it say? Custom. Yeah, so the motor settings are quite a bit higher than with this little lens here. So now we got 42, 38 and 46 on the actual parameters here. So if we put it onto underslung mode, if we shake it normally, we would get vibrations of the tilt motor. We don't have anything right there. If we pan with the gimbal, it actually works very smoothly. So I really love that we don't have to use these lens supports, because sometimes they're just in the way. But if it's a really heavy lens, I would recommend to use the lens support. Some of the things that they didn't update is the Vortex Mode, which I would really have loved to see they update on this gimbal, because the Vortex Mode, when they updated this, I think it was back in 2.02, we got some new features for the Vortex Mode, which is great. But the thing is that you can see here, the gimbal still turns when you turn the handle. So if I turn, the gimbal turns. This should not be happening. It should only be when we use the joystick that the gimbal should turn. So they didn't fix that. And also when you go into Vortex Mode and set it to go automatically, when you power down the gimbal, it will still forget the settings. It won't save the settings that you made, so you have to do everything over. if you power down the gimbal. So Zhiyun, please update that, because I know there's a lot of people out there that want this to work correctly. But again, you can go back to 1.96. There the Vortex mode works fine. And of course, all the firmwares are in the description. Yes, I actually got a question the other day about the lock mode on this gimbal. If we put it into lock mode, the statement was that it kind of pivots to the sides over time. And I've actually been trying to set it into lock mode today and also do some hyperlapse stuff with it to see if I can get the same kind of drift to the side. But with 2.03, which I had this gimbal on before, and 2.06, which is the one I'm running on right now, I don't see any issues with it. It doesn't shift to the side as what mentioned in the comments. So if you're watching this, try, as I said to you, try 1.96 or try 2.06 as well. I don't have any issues with it, and of course if you still have problems, I would send the gimbal back, because there's something wrong with it. It shouldn't do that. It shouldn't shift to the side. Now that we talk firmware update and what we want to see in the future, there's a couple of things that I really want to see on this update updated. There's one thing in particular that they have in the Crane 2S, and that is the ability to choose to have click and hold at the same time. Now we have to choose between click and hold to toggle between pan follow and follow. On the Crane 2S, we can actually have both, so we can hold it and we can also have click at the same time. So that's one of the updates that I really want to see. I also want to see an update for the focus wheel here. I would love to see that when I move this focus wheel, when I'm not using the follow focus, that I could adjust the tilt motor. I can do that on the DJI RSC2 and RS2 gimbal, and that is so handy, because then I don't have to move it by hand. I can just use my thumb to just move the tilt motor up and down. So please update that soon if you're watching this video. And lastly, of course, as I said before, update the Vortex mode. It's pretty important that you do this because it doesn't work correctly. So that's the 3 things. If you can get that in the next update, I really believe that the Weebill S is still one of the best gimbals that you can get for smaller or compact mirrorless cameras out there. I love this gimbal. I actually hadn't shot this much with it lately, but when I went out today, I was just like, yes, it's just so nice. It works each and every time. The stability and the smoothness of this gimbal is so well made. So yeah, if you have a Weebill S, don't sell it. It's a good gimbal unless it's broken, anything like that. Throw it out and get a new one. But if it works, don't update to any bigger gimbals, because you will just regret it over time. If you're happy with the system you have, just keep working with the Weebill S and just work on your techniques instead of buying new gear. And of course, if you want to learn more about how you work with a gimbal, you can always join my Gimbal Academy, where I teach you everything I know and have learned over the years of shooting on gimbals. The link is of course in the description. Alright guys, that is kind of it. Weebill S firmware update today. Thank you, Zhiyun. Nice that we got that, and I actually think this kind of makes the stability super smooth, and no need for downgrading your gimbal unless you want the Vortex mode to work. So my recommendation is update to 2.06 and your Weebill S is good. Alright guys, that is it. I don't have any more for you, but if you want to see more Weebill S videos, I will link some of them down here. I have a lot of good tutorials on this channel. And of course, if you're new, remember to subscribe if you want to learn more about filmmaking with motion. And lastly, stay creative and stay safe. And if you can, go out and shoot some dope videos. See you next time. Bye.